Good morning, everyone. It started small. My daughter was away with my two youngest granddaughters on holiday in Turkey. 8:15 on Saturday morning, my eldest granddaughter called me. One of the dogs, they have two, went out into the garden to take care of his business and couldn't stand on his back legs. I, of course, put my shoes on and drove up there straight away. On arrival, as I knocked on the door, both dogs went mental as always, barking at the unknown person seeking entry, and it sounded like any other time I'd been there. On entering, the larger dog, a husky cross called Nova, bounded over and jumped up in greeting, her tail threatening to knock flying anything it came in contact with. And the small dog, Alfie, was trying his best to do the same, while dragging his back legs behind him. He wasn't in any pain, and he wasn't paralysed at the rear, as his tail was also wagging for all that it was worth. Nova was given the usual chew that I always brought with me, and retreated to devour it. Alfie likewise accepted and ate the chew while I checked him over. There was no physical indicators to the root cause of the problem, no cuts or anything like that, just two legs that had ceased to function. I called the emergency vet and made an appointment for within the hour. After a thorough examination, the vet stated that he needed to see a specialist, as she thought the problem was with his spine, and of course, without hesitation, I authorised her to make the referral. That short visit cost £132, but that wasn't even a consideration, and within 30 minutes we were on the road to a veterinary centre in Cheshire. Here we were given coffee while we waited, and I made the call over WhatsApp to my daughter in Turkey for the first of a few times that morning. The veterinary urologist, after a proper examination, told us that in his opinion Alfie had slipped a disc in the centre of his spine, and that he would need an MRI scan to determine the extent of the damage, which is when the first shoe fell. It would cost £4,000. £4,000 just to have a look. And here's the thing that sticks in your throat. It takes about 19 minutes. 19 minutes. I've spent longer waiting for a kettle to boil while thinking about whether I can justify buying branded beans. But this, £4,000. And that's not for treatment or any kind of cure. That's just to have a look. Now, if I was a person in the fortunate position where money wasn't a consideration, I would have just said go ahead. No hesitation. Scan, surgery, treatment, recovery, whatever it takes. But money is a factor, as it is for most of us. Neither myself or my daughter are rich. So I sat there in that little consultation room that suddenly felt very small, and I asked the questions. What would be needed after the MRI? What chance did a 9-year-old dog have of surviving if surgery was needed? After all, spinal surgery is a high-risk thing. And what would be needed after? Before he even gave me those answers, he let the other shoe drop. Surgery would be another £4,000. Of course, there was a risk that he wouldn't pull through, as with any surgery. And if he did, he would then need a couple of months at least of intensive care at home while he recovered, in a house with a very boisterous husky cross. And you start doing the maths. Not because you want to, not because you have to. Savings, credit cards, insurance, limits, excess, what's covered and what's not. And while I'm doing that, Alfie is just lying there staring up at me with absolute trust. Is he insured? Asks the vet. Well, yes, of course he is. because my daughter is responsible and that's the responsible thing to do. But what they don't always tell you is how quickly that safety net runs out. Caps, exclusions, conditions that suddenly become pre-existing. And that £4,000 scan, which would take up the entire allowance before even confirming the problem. The rest of the treatment after, not covered. I make the next call to my daughter and give her the news. We have options. Option 1, go ahead with the MRI, which hopefully the insurance will cover, no guarantees here mind you, and £4,000 is just the starting point, because if they find something, you're looking at surgery, specialists, more thousands. Option 2, manage the symptoms, keep him comfortable, see how it goes. Well, that's not really an option, is it? That's a gamble. This is the part that stays with you, the part that doesn't go away. Because no matter what you decide, it feels wrong. If you go ahead and dig a financial hole, what then? I knew that my daughter couldn't afford that. And I also knew that if she were there instead of me, she would have likely picked up the shovel and dug that hole with a middle finger to the consequences. It was at this point that I had to be dad. Take that weight from her shoulders, push sentimentality aside, and tell her that it was time, in my opinion, to let him go. Now, there is no way to win that argument inside your own head. The feeling that you would just put a price on a member of the family, because that is what pets are. But as I said, my daughter is responsible, a responsible adult, and even through her tears, she knew that it was really the only option. And the more I've thought about it since, the more I've realised this isn't just about one decision. This is about a system that's drifted so far from reality, it's almost unrecognisable. Because when a diagnostic scan costs £4,000, you have to ask, who is this actually for? Because it's not for the average person. It's for people who either have top-tier insurance or can absorb that kind of hit without blinking. And that's not most of us. And this is where insurance comes into it. Because once insurance became the norm, prices didn't just rise, they went stratospheric. The ceiling lifted. Treatments became more advanced, more specialised, and much more expensive. Like vets across the board saw the pound signs and knew that the insurance companies would pony up. And gradually things shifted from what is a reasonable treatment to what's the best possible treatment we can get past the insurance company. Which sounds great until the insurance runs out and you're handed the bill. Vet bills used to be affordable before pet insurance was a thing. And to me it seems that the days of the caring independent vets have gone, replaced with a system that is cold and always with one hand on the cash register. Corporations that have swallowed up all the local vets and dragged them under the same umbrella of greed, preying on the emotional attachment people have to their pets. There used to be a word for this kind of thing: extortion. Costs have spiralled, insurance has inflated expectations, and ordinary people are left stuck in the middle. I'm not telling you what you should do, or how you should prepare, because until you're in that room, you don't really know how it feels. But I will say this, we need to talk about it, properly, honestly, because right now, too many people are sitting in those rooms, doing the same maths, feeling the same guilt, and walking away with the same questions. Could I have done more? And think about this. The reality that I have outlined is creeping into human medicine as well. And if we let it continue, our NHS is finished. Just look at America, where they have a similar system, but for people, where even tissues are on the itemised bill. If you've been through something like this, you'll understand. And if you haven't, I genuinely hope you never have to. In the end, we had to let Alfie go. Not because he couldn't be saved, not because we didn't care, but because the corporate accountants slammed down the financial guillotine. Losing a pet is hard enough. Anyone who's been through it knows that. But losing one with that question hanging over you, that what if, that's something else entirely. Because you don't just grieve them, you replay the decision over and over. Something's not right when basic diagnostics are priced out of reach, when people are forced into impossible decisions, when love alone isn't enough anymore. Something has gone off track. This isn't about blaming individual vets, it's bigger than that. Vets are genuinely caring people. It's about the system. And if the system stays the way it is, more and more people will find themselves in that position. And that's the part that doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right at all. Well, if you found this video useful, please leave me a like and subscribe. I won't say if you enjoyed it, because it's a sad subject and it's not something to be enjoyed. But enjoy the rest of the little ride through the countryside, and I'll see you next time.